It's a really complex issue in the sense, we're living in a time where, body image, and not even just a normal body image, just like the seeking of the perfection of it. It's probably at fever pitch right now, whether it's how you look or what you do, everyone seems to be doing it perfectly. You don't see anything out of, that is totally wrong on social media today. And I think that's what's really given us a skewed view of reality. And it's just creating this generation of young women who are really struggling with body image. And in terms of healthy eating, because obviously that's where I want to channel this discussion this evening, how does that affect it, right? Well, unfortunately for some, this translates into major confusion as to what they need to eat for it to be a healthy choice. Today, social media actually dictates what we should do and what we shouldn't do, what we eat, what we don't eat. And you see these influencers, and they're just eating junk all day long, and they have these thin, beautiful bodies. So our younger generation, our teens, they think, well, we could be doing that too. Why can't we eat like that? And that kind of discrepancy, I think it leads to things like eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, emotional eating, this kind of thing. And researching into this topic, it's actually shocking to see that there were studies indicating, girls as young as 6 years old, they start to express concerns about their own weight, their shape, and that's really young. They haven't even started to hit puberty at 6 years old, but because of the influence of everything around them, it's such an issue for them. And that's 40 to 60% of girls between the ages of 6 and 12. Okay, we're not even hitting the teen years yet. They're worried. They're worried about their size. They're worried about their shape. How are other people perceiving them? How are they gaining too much weight? And the worst thing is that as they hit the teenage years, this figure increases. Over half of teenage girls and even boys now, you probably don't have to look very far on social media to see boys affected by this too. And they're starting to use unhealthy weight control behaviors, skipping meals, fasting, some of them smoking, vomiting, taking laxatives. And this should cause us concern. Especially for many of us who have children, they're going to reach those teenage years. I have 2 teens at the moment, and yes, it is something they talk about. Even though, we're in an Islamic environment, they've grown up, obviously, knowing about the hijab and the jilbab, but they still have this thing, it's still something they talk about often. And so I think it's really important, especially when your children are growing up, to be able to spot these things and to be aware of the signs so that you can nip it in the bud, and tackle it as a family, in the correct way. Because at the end of the day, nourishing our children is something that we want to do naturally. We don't want to have them go through these things. And these difficulties, though they will arise, if we can spot them early, then we can take action. So some of the things you want to be looking out for, you might even see these in adults, right? It's not just children. So things like becoming obsessive with food, okay, the relationship they have with food, looking at their eating patterns, when they eat, they're constantly thinking about, how is this going to affect my self-image, okay? Another one is the way that they eat affecting how they function day to day, right? Hiding their eating behavior. Another one that they may do is withdraw from social contact, just to avoid, those gatherings where food will be involved, where people will be looking at how much they're putting in their plate and this kind of thing. Another thing would be is that no matter what people tell you or what you actually do weigh and how you do look in those clothes, you constantly keep telling yourself you're overweight. And, how many people do we know like this? How many times have we told those statements to ourselves? Maybe after a child, or, going through a difficult time in your life, or, just generally, that is so common for women to be so fixated on their weight. And so those kind of things, spot them out, be aware, that it's not that, oh my God, now my child's got an obsessive, relationship with food and with healthy eating. It may not necessarily be that way, but just be aware that, this could lead to something a bit more serious. So how can we overcome this? How can we create that healthy relationship with food and have that, healthy body image mindset and view in how we perceive ourselves and how we want people to perceive us, right? Research into this has found a positive mindset, okay, and having those kind of tools in place where you know how to correct that, and that can help overcome this. The things that you say to yourself, those things that help positive mindset, all help towards that, inshallah. Some other things could be, appreciating your body and all the things it can do. Looking at people who may not even have, certain things that you have. Practicing gratitude, writing down things that you like about your body, and that they don't relate to weight or body image. And surrounding yourself with positive people who value you for who you are. And I think that's really important, especially with your kids, in terms of their friends, and how they spend their time, and how they speak to others, and that kind of thing, because that can have a huge impact. More so than the child itself. It's who they hang around with. We know that from the Sunnah too. The people that they're around them, you want them to be positive people who value them for who they are, for their personality, and not just their appearance, and not just your child, or not just you as a person, but other people in that circle. We have to appreciate the fact that women are complex beings, no doubt. Okay, I mean, we have amazing bodies that Allah has blessed us with. We have that capability to grow a whole new life inside of us. So our nutrition needs are very different to that of a male, okay, because they fluctuate in terms of what we need throughout the month. For example, different stages of our lives, as we are growing, and then, going through those kind of changes, and then, towards later on, the menopause and this kind of thing. So all those kind of changing of the hormones, means that our needs need to be met. And obviously the fact that, we are emotional beings, more so than men. Okay, so one thing that I tend to find with women, often, is that they have this, when it's related to food, okay, they have this feeling of guilt and shame, and especially when they're not, or they feel that they are not able to control their eating. Okay, so the food cravings, the emotional eating habits, and when these things go to an extreme, then you're looking at things like food addiction. And food addiction, I think, is something which is a real problem in our modern society. Social media obviously is a big role player in this today. It hasn't helped with the situation at all. You have these crazy food challenges of how I can eat X amount of calories in 24 hours, or these binge eating things, and the youth, they are amazed by this kind of stuff. And then you have these ASMR food fetish things, and subhanAllah, it's just like, wow, and it is overwhelming. And if you're constantly seeing that, how many times have you seen these dessert things, come up on social media, on TikTok and YouTube and this kind of thing? So, we're surrounded by it. And then obviously, let's not go into advertising. Okay, so food, how they've made it set up now, it's like a source of pure enjoyment. Okay, it's just that moment in your mouth, something that's highly palatable, but it doesn't have any nourishment. It seriously lacks in nourishment. So, though as human beings, we do enjoy our food, that's something that we should have, but it shouldn't be the only thing that is present about food. Okay, and we shouldn't just become dependent on having that feel good factor from food all the time, that sugar rush, or that, just that satisfaction in the mouth and no benefit in the body, because this is how food addiction occurs. Okay, and that is closely tied to emotional eating. And that's quite a tricky one, because at the end of the day, the food that we eat is connected to our survival. So it isn't something that we can just say, right, okay, you know what, we can just abstain from food, right? We can't do that. But things that are connected to emotion and eating, they definitely need to be addressed, because if you're just eating when you're upset and you're just binging out this kind of thing, that's obviously not correct. And then if you're not, again, you're so upset that you don't actually eat when you're hungry, these kind of things. And a way to kind of counterbalance that is eating a nutrient-dense diet, okay? Because if you're having cravings, right, it's usually a sign that something is deficient in what you're having as a day-to-day, okay? And obviously another one, a huge one related to women, is the imbalancing of hormones, right? Okay, and many things can trigger these off. Stress is a big one, okay? And the thing that you want to ensure when it comes to hormones is things like healthy fats, okay? Reducing caffeine, reducing environmental toxins, because they can cause endocrine issues, which is related to hormones. Making sure you're sleeping well, because you don't sleep well, you're just going to make bad choices in the morning. You're not going to feel like eating healthy. You're not going to feel like making that extra effort to cook your meal. You're just going to want that sugar rush or that caffeine rush just to get you through that day because you're tired, right? And movement, exercise is great, making you feel good. And even if you can't do anything, I'm not saying that going to the gym, just movement. We're designed as humans to move, okay? Even if it's something gentle, walking. I think walking is so underrated, and it's so beneficial for us as women. Yeah, and then just changing your mentality around food, okay? Because if you're overeating, or you're having emotional issues related to eating, then you really need to look at your relationship with food, okay? Because sometimes when people have these food addictions or anything like this, it's not usually related to food. There's something deeper. There's something that's underlying that needs to be addressed. So inshallah bidnillah ta'ala, if those things are dealt with, then inshallah, bidnillah, those relationships with food can be improved. But no doubt, the whole thing about putting on weight, the guilt around it, unable to lose weight, that is that kind of plays heavy in the mind of women. There's no doubt about it. Looking in the mirror, thinking, oh, I need to lose this flab. Why isn't it going? I've done X, Y, and Z. This is something that doesn't go away easily. As you get older, even after you've had children, you still kind of have that thing, to try to conform to what you think society wants you to look like. So healthy eating is a struggle, I think, more so for women than it is for men. What are your thoughts on that?